I've dedicated pretty much my whole life to winning the flag. There's not much more to life than footy right now. Once I finish footy, I'll go run my wine bars, be the best husband I can be the best son I can be, hopefully be the best dad I can be at some point. Like, I will do that, and that is a big passion of mine. Footy's pretty high on the agenda at the moment. Like, I've been in a bad team for 10 years, and we got a chance to do something pretty special this year.
He's playing like it too, Max Cornes. It's exciting for Melbourne fans. The Bulldogs will have other ideas. Let's dive into the game and get stuck into it with Matthew Lloyd and Kane Cornes, who've had an unbelievable insight into footy for the entire year on the Nine Network. And we start with the mids at Melbourne, Lordo. It's hard to go past this area of the ground. We saw that in the Brownlow, its importance last night. And it'll be big time how they are curated this weekend.
Hutchie, they've been 5 goals up in both first quarter times, of both finals against Brisbane and also Geelong. So they just destroy you, and it's all based through this midfield. So I think the Western Bulldogs have a deeper group of midfielders, but no, the Western Bulldogs to me aren't as good as Gawn, Oliver, Viney and Petrarca, and this is a type of movement. So goals from stoppages. So we see get it to ground, Spargo picks this up, snaps the ball. So they score easily because of this dominance of the midfield, and this is one of the plays of the year. Down to Viney, to Petrarca. He's too powerful for Selwood there. Out to Max Gawn, who kicks 5 goals in a prelim. So Kane, the Dogs may be deeper, but I think that 4 is superior for mine of Melbourne.
Absolutely, it's a good point. And if you're the Western Bulldogs, you can't allow them to come through the front of the stoppage. That's where the wings protecting behind the stoppage is so important. So let's take a look at the Western Bulldogs midfield, because the last 2 times these teams played, Gawn was dominant in the hit-outs. The hit-outs for this game, 67-18. Yet the Western Bulldogs won the clearances 49-41. Bontempelli had 10. So you're seeing him shark Gawn's hit. That they'll know that they've got no hope, really, of winning the hit-outs. McRae had 9 clearances, so you're seeing that there. So can they combat Gawn in the ruck with English and Martin? And can Bontempelli and McRae and Liberatore shark the hit-outs, which they won't be too worried about, and do this, which is what they did last time they played. So that'll give them a fair amount of confidence, Lordo. And you also wanted to look at big Max Gawn, who's in red-hot form.
I do. So there's an issue for the Western Bulldogs, and that's that when he's on Stephen Martin, this is what he'll do to Stephen Martin. So this was Mark Blixabs, who's quite a good athlete, the steeplechaser. He couldn't actually go with Max Gawn here for endurance. So he runs ruckman ragged. So he can do that to Steph Martin. And then if they want to throw Tim English at him, well, then he can do this. So I'm proposing, Kane and Hutch and Caro, which is big in a grand final. I'll never forget Port Adelaide going after Max Gawn in round 1 2 years ago at the MCG. Do you remember that? And he didn't handle it too well. I wonder if the Dogs set themselves to take down the captain physically and make it a team attack on Max Gawn. See if they can cut the head off of this Melbourne captain. And I just wonder, I know you don't want to distract yourselves, but I haven't seen a team go after him like Port did that day. Scotty Lycett tormented him. And I just wonder if that's something they have up their sleeve to go after Maxi Gawn. Because I reckon, he's a happy-go-lucky sort of guy. See if they can get into him.
You think Melbourne have got a tougher team now, Kane? A tougher team of teammates who would stick up for their skipper more than they were able to do back then?
Yeah, I think it's just about the knocks off the ball. How many hits can you get into Max Gawn? We often played in the target for their best player. We've got to put 100 hits into them. Now, it's nothing overtly aggressive, but every time they run past you, put some body contact on them, because he does this as well. And I haven't seen a ruckman do this, I don't know, ever. This was a game against Port Adelaide where they had their way with Port Adelaide earlier on. This is a forward stoppage, Lordo, and this is a ruckman. This is why he is a top 5 player in the game, because it's not his hit-outs, it's not what he does around the ground. How selfless is he to leave the stoppage, go and pick up Port Adelaide's power forward, Charlie Dixon, so that they can manufacture their man who they want free, and that's Stephen May. Look at that. Port Adelaide didn't know what to do. So will Max Gawn, how many times will he do it against Norton or the key forwards this weekend? But this is what gets them. Fast ball movement, centre bounces, lead up on Jake Lever, who is automatically sagging to be free. North Melbourne did this really well earlier on the year. Look at Jake Lever behind the ball. You can't just kick that to him. You've got to work your way through that with fast ball movement, quick handball, make a good decision inside 50, and then he's irrelevant. Look at that. Just lower your eyes. And that's one of the worst teams in the competition. So there are things that can expose that Melbourne defence who want to sag back free.
So we've got a week also that these coaches have been able to sit back and go, OK, what tactics do we go for? I'll never forget when Harms got a hold of Liberatore. They weren't ready for it in round 11, the Western Bulldogs. And I think one thing where they're underrated, the Western Bulldogs, is their defence. They win so many one-on-ones, and they've just had an outstanding final series. So it started way back in Tasmania against the Bombers, and I reckon you've got Rourke Smith and you've got Gardner, you've got Keith, so they don't get spoken about that much, Easton Wood, but they're really losing one-on-one contests. We saw Wood lose some to Charlie Cameron in that first quarter, but look at this. They are playing above their weight, and because of their midfield and Norton, Kane, they don't get spoken of that often, but they're doing a really, really good job through this final series.
Yeah, I reckon it's surprised a few, and even Bailey Dale and Caleb Daniel have improved their defence. Now, their forward line is the biggest issue for the Bulldogs for me, and they stood up in the prelim against Port Adelaide, didn't they? Hannon and these types of players. Johannesson was magnificent, but these three I want to highlight. So I'm going to highlight Cody Waitman, who's been in really good form, will come back into the side. Tim English and Hannon. I reckon they need 5 to 6 goals out of these three if they're going to kick a winning score, because Norton can get shut down. So how much spark can Waitman give you? Can Hannon do what he did against Port Adelaide? And can Tim English command and be strong in a contest? And then you've also got Shaki and Johannesson if he plays as well and isn't the sub. So those lesser lights are going to have to stand up, which isn't going to be easy. And
Hutchie, just to finish, and Caro, I'm looking for weaknesses somewhere, and I think the Western Bulldogs, as good as Dale and Daniel are, they give you a chance. So here's the small forwards who have kicked goals against the smalls at the Western Bulldogs. So Eddie Betts kicked 5 in round 8. Toby Green kicked 4 in round 6. The list goes on and on. So they do give you a chance. So the way Oliver and Gawn and those guys come through the centre of the ground, Hutchie, I think look at Neil Bullen, look at Pickett, and look at obviously Spargo. They could potentially kick 5 or 6 goals between them, which would help them win this game of footy.
I want to ask you about the bottom 6 or perceived bottom 6 of both teams, Lordo and Kane. You get by during the year without too much exposure on your bottom 6, but against the best, always feels like the bottom 6 play a role in a grand final, and it's hard to get past the fact that, no disrespect to the Bulldogs' bottom 6, Melbourne's next 6, 23 through 28, look compatible with the Bulldogs' bottom 6. I just wonder whether there's a hero at the bottom end of this and whether Melbourne bat a bit deeper.
Yeah, we see it all the time, don't we, Lordo? Usually you know what to expect from the Stars, but some of the less lights fail to stand up under the pressure of a big final. We saw that with Port Adelaide last week. So, Lordo, would you say that Melbourne's bottom 6 are a little bit stronger than the Western Bulldogs?
Possibly, yeah, I would say that, but I also think the Dogs' best 10 is probably better than Melbourne's best 10. So with how deep they go, I think Treloar and Dunkley are the 6th and 7th best midfielders at their respective clubs. But we've spoken a lot about Gary Rowan this week, Caro, Stephen Motlop, Orazio Fantasia. So it's critical that those bottom end players perform.